We're all told pretty much the same thing, right? To get ahead, you gotta be loud. You gotta speak up. Always be promoting yourself. Make sure everyone knows you're in the room. But what if that's all wrong? What if the real secret to power isn't about being heard, but about knowing when to say nothing at all?
This idea, which completely flips that common wisdom on its head, comes from the master of power dynamics himself, Niccolò Machiavelli. He believed that real respect doesn't kick in when you start talking, it begins the exact moment you stop. And we're not just talking about being quiet, we're talking about a deliberate, strategic silence that completely changes the game.
So how in the world can saying nothing be more powerful than saying something? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Most people just fill the world with forgettable noise. Endless chatter, justifications, and reactions. But strategic silence? It does the exact opposite. It creates a presence that is absolutely impossible to ignore. It makes you unforgettable.
Let's break this down with something we can call the economy of presence. Think about it like this. On one hand, constant talking makes you totally predictable. It reveals your weaknesses, what you need, what you're afraid of. And because you're always there, always talking, your words kind of lose their value. They're easily ignored. But strategic silence, it flips that entire script. Suddenly, you're unreadable. You're projecting control, you create scarcity, which demands attention, and as Machiavelli would say, it engineers respect.
And this really gets to a core psychological truth here. People just don't respect what they can easily predict and access. When you live like an open book, always explaining yourself just because you want to be liked or understood, you are literally giving your power away. In the whole game of influence, a little bit of mystery is so much more powerful than total transparency. So what's actually going on inside the other person's head when you just go quiet? Let's dive into the mechanics of how this one simple act can shift the entire power dynamic right into your corner. It's this fascinating chain reaction, really. First, your silence just disrupts the normal back and forth. People expect noise, they expect a quick reply, and when they don't get it, they get confused. Their mind starts racing, trying to figure out what they did wrong. And this is the magic trick. They start projecting their own insecurities and fears onto your silence. They fill in the blanks themselves. And in that uncertainty, you gain control, and they start treating you with a whole new level of care and respect. Now look, let's be clear, this is not about ghosting people or just ignoring everyone. That's not the point. It's a strategy we can call controlled presence. It's all about being intentional. It's about protecting your energy. You decide who gets your time and your words. This isn't about being absent, it's about being strategic.
All right, so that's the theory. Sounds good, right? But how does this actually play out in real life? Let's look at a few practical examples. Think of it as a toolkit you can start using right away.
Okay, think about your relationships. If you're always available, texting back in half a second, always explaining how you feel, you're basically training people to devalue your voice. It just becomes background noise. But when you pull back just a little, that silence creates scarcity. And suddenly, when you do choose to speak, your words land with so much more weight.
This is like negotiation 101. It's an old rule, but a good one. The person who can't stand the silence is the one who's going to crack first and start making concessions. They talk because they're uncomfortable, and in doing that, they reveal their desperation, their strategy, their entire hand, really. The one who stays quiet, they hold all the cards. They get to just sit back and observe while the other person lays everything out on the table.
And what about arguments? The Machiavellian move here isn't to shout louder, it's to listen longer. Let the other person completely exhaust themselves emotionally. Let them lay out their whole case, throw everything they have at you. You just observe. You hold your ground without getting rattled. And then you respond with just a few carefully chosen words. You're coming from a place of control, not emotion. And trust me, that changes everything. Okay, so if this is all so effective, you got to be asking yourself, why don't more people do it? Well, the truth is, being quiet is incredibly hard. It goes against some of our deepest, most basic instincts. It forces a real internal battle. Let's just ask that question directly. Why do we feel that compulsive urge to fill every single pause, to explain ourselves over and over again, to just smooth things over? The answer, in a word, is fear. That silence, it forces us to sit with our own discomfort. We're fighting this deep-seated need for outside validation, to be seen, to be heard, to be liked. We rush to explain away any tension because we are absolutely terrified of being misunderstood. So we choose being liked over being powerful every single time. And that brings us to what might be the most important lesson in all of this. You just can't be powerful until you're truly okay with being misunderstood. You have to have the confidence to let other people think whatever they want about you. It's about knowing your worth isn't determined by winning some shouting match.
So how do we make that shift? How do we go from being a reactive puppet, constantly pulled by the strings of needing approval, to becoming a true master of our own presence?
At the end of the day, you have a choice to make. You can play the role of the puppet, reacting emotionally, constantly justifying yourself, always looking for that pat on the back. Or you can be the master, waiting, observing, and holding your composure while everyone else loses theirs. A master doesn't need to explain. They use silence like a sword to cut right through all the noise. And please, do not mistake any of this for weakness or for avoidance. Silence is the ultimate shield. Think about it. Your words can be twisted, misquoted, and used against you. But your silence? It gives manipulators absolutely nothing to grab onto. It's a clean, powerful, impenetrable defense. So the next time you feel that urge to speak, to just fill a gap in the conversation, ask yourself a simple question. Are you just filling the silence to feel useful and liked? Or are you willing to use that silence to actually be powerful? The choice, as always, is yours.